quite ready for another adventure.
Oh, I was muted. What's up, everyone? We're back for the Hobbit. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. What's going on, everyone? Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to people on Twitch. If you're just chilling on Twitch watching, welcome. What's up, guys? How's it going? I'm so pumped for this. I'm so excited. One second. Is the color all weird on this? I feel like it's bandy. Is the quality not good anymore? I gotta figure it out. OBS updated. I haven't been on for a week. I haven't been here. I might need to update all this stuff. Oh, love that you're reading chapter 2 to the baby. That's the best. Kev, of course. Kev, what are you talking about? Yeah, there's a lot of banding. I don't know what the issue is. I don't like that. OBS updated and all of a sudden I hate getting in these what are they called? Tech issues to start streams. Also, I shouldn't make the goal to find the One Ring. Maybe let's make it to find the Arkenstone. We're gonna change the goal. Start another goal. Fine. Is the Arkenstone in the book? Is it called the Arkenstone? The Arkenstone? Should we really find the Arkenstone? Only one goal can be active at a time. How do I stop a goal and make another goal? I think we're screwed. I think we have to find the One Ring. Hey, the background's banding a little bit. Why is... Yes, Kevin, I love it. Kevin, you got to read Lord of the Rings too, because those books blew my mind. You gotta. I'm pretty pumped for the Hobbit. Okay, how am I gonna stop banding? Banding on. Banding on OBS. Is it banding on my camera? Hold on. Oh, of course I wouldn't be banding on my camera. Technicalities are technically technical in nature. Hey, welcome to a first-time chatter on Twitch. So this ain't going well. Also, if you want to watch on Twitch, Twitch is, I think, going to be the one-stop shop. There's no banding on your end? There's banding on my end. So if there's banding on my end, it might be banding on your end. Let me change the kilobytes per second. Is that the thing? Setting. Is there banding on Twitch? There's just banding in OBS, which shouldn't be happening. Sorry, everyone. I hate getting into this stupid stuff immediately. Let's bump up the bit rate. So it's a 10-bit color. What color am I right now? Advanced set, color format. Color space, color format. I don't think that's going to change anything. We'll just deal with it for the first one. Doesn't look good at all. Looks awful. Oh well. I don't know what's going on. I'll figure this out later. How you guys doing? I feel like I haven't been making videos for the last week and a half because I've been out. Welcome to the first Hobbit stream. Oh my gosh, we're a mess over here. Yeah, I feel like I'm wearing camouflage right now. I did not intend this, but so I feel like I should change. I didn't choose this on purpose today. You have to be pulled up on YouTube, but you're not seeing my face on Twitch. I refreshed it on Twitch. Try it. It says it's unstable though. Average stream bitrate is too high. Whoa. Goodness gracious, we are having so many technical difficulties right now. This is ridiculous. This is what happens when you leave for a week and then try to come back. Settings, stream. Just keep it at 6,000. Just restart my computer or something. You don't come here for my wardrobe? What? How do you not come here for my wardrobe? What? Yeah, I think we're fixed on Twitch. I think we're good. Although it still says unstable. I don't know. You can't really do a bitrate with YouTube and Twitch. They're two different bit rates. It's all stupid stuff. Yeah, I don't think you guys are all that bothered about my my appearance on here. None of you are really watching it for my dashing good looks anyway. You're just watching because it's a book that you guys love and that I probably will come to love in a bit. So, am I going to have a new favorite Hobbit? That's a really good question. All right, glad, Kevin. I'm glad that we're fixed. Yeah, we have some people hanging out on Twitch watching. Love that. I don't think I'm going to have a new favorite Hobbit. Frodo is just the best. I mean, unless, man, I don't know. We'll see. I feel like I don't know if I'm going to have someone to replace Frodo. Frodo is just such a great Hobbit in the Lord of the Rings. We'll see that. We got to talk about the differences between them. Okay, okay, my voice is all that matters. Yeah. That's coming through crisply and clearly. Also, this book is short. Did not realize how short this book was. And someone was talking about a preface, prelude. What are they called again? I don't have any preface in my book. It just goes into chapter 1 immediately. There's a map of the Wilderland, a map of Erebor, a map of the Misty Mountains, and then chapter 1. Yeah, the first chapter is pretty long, but I think the first chapter is long, but it's also, the spacing is so much, it's like 1.5 spacing, and the font is bigger than my other book. So this book is even smaller than Lord of the Rings, and it's bigger type. So I feel like this is probably like the first, someone said it's like it's like reading Lord of the Rings up till the Tom Bombadil chapter, which is a little sad. I want this to be 5 times as long. Bilbo is Unk? What does that mean? I'm not up on all the terminology these days. Does Twitch keep just jumping off and on with instability? Average bit rate is too high. What a mess. What a mess. Yeah, we have the Silmarillion. And the Silmarillion is going to take us 5 years, let's be honest. You have faith in my ability to make it last a while? I'm pretty pumped that we're doing children's literature because this is my bread and butter. This is what I live on. Also, everyone liked the stream. I totally forgot to mention it. Like the stream. Will I have a new favorite Hobbit? I don't think so, but we'll see. I am very excited about this book, though. How many chapters are there? What is 19 chapters? XIX in the book? That's 19. I think that's 19, yeah. So 19... It depends on. I'm gonna really the first read that we have is going to me determine how fast or slow we're gonna do this. It might be like a one chapter a week book. There might be a lot that I want to talk about. It might be a 1 chapter every 2 weeks. We'll see. A new favorite dwarf? Oh, I don't think so. Maybe that would actually be crazy if I have a new favorite dwarf. I am okay, so I know the dwarves are all in this. I would be astonished if he gives all the dwarves such different personalities that I can kind of differentiate them pretty easily. I think that would be I don't know if that's actually possible. We'll see. Hey, what's up? On the train, back in the train in Austria. Love that. A few double chapters. What do you mean? Wait, a few double chapters. Yeah, I doubt a favorite dwarf. Going back to high school, is Roger Brain Bilbo. Translation: Bilbo is the OG. Is Bilbo the OG? Wasn't Lord of the Rings published first? Well, what was written first? So Lord of the Rings was published first. The Hobbit was written first. I don't know which edition I'm reading from. Let me read the note in my book. Let me read the publication information. That's where I'll find it. It's a mass market edition. 2020 Del Rey mass market edition, published in the United States by Del Rey, imprint of Random House. Del Rey is registered, yada yada yada. This edition published by arrangement with Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Publishing Company. Random House. That didn't tell me anything. In this reprint, several minor inaccuracies, most of them noted by readers, have been corrected. For example, the text on page 19 and 53 now corresponds exactly with the runes of Thror's map. More important is the matter of chapter 5. There, the true story of the ending of the riddle game, as it was eventually revealed under pressure by Bilbo to Gandalf, is now given according to the Red Book. The place of the version Bilbo first gave to his friends and actually set down in his diary. This departure from the truth on the part of the most honest hobbit was a portent of great significance. It does not, however, concern this present story, and those who in this edition make their first acquaintance with Hobbit lore need not trouble about it. Its explanation lies in the history of the ring, and it was set out in the chronicles of the Red Book of Westmarch and is now told in Lord of the Rings. A final note may be added. On a point raised by several students of the lore of the period, on Thror's map is written, "Here of old was Thrain king under the mountain." Yet Thrain was son of Thror, the last king under the mountain before the coming of the dragon. The map, however, is not in error. Names are often repeated in dynasties, and the genealogies show that a distant ancestor of Thror was referred to Thrain the First, a fugitive from Moria, who first discovered the Lonely Mountains, Erebor, and ruled there for a while before his people moved on to the remoter mountain of the north. Huh, interesting. All right. I need a refresher on all the Thrains, the Thrors, and all the Dwarven people. Nice, Benjamin. Love that. Love that. Love that you guys just came on. Yeah, I set the stream up last night because I got home last night and I was like, I got to do a stream. I got to do a live read tomorrow because I really want to do a live read. I want to start talking about the Hobbit. So that's where we are in this world. Wonder what y'all think of narration and tone compared to Lord of the Rings. I feel like it's going to be more childlike, which I kind of love. I'm curious what I'm going to think of the characters. I think that's my main thing. If I'm going to notice any difference in Gandalf or in Bilbo versus Frodo. So I'm curious about that. I really don't know what to expect. My background in this too is because this is like, I think this is a true first time read because I think I read this in middle school. It was either 8th or 9th grade. And the teacher kind of read it to us. and we had to read it. We had had to read a few chapters at a time by ourselves. But when I was that age, I didn't really read. So I remember the story, but not that well. Like if I'm going through these chapters, I don't know if I could tell you what probably the majority of these chapters are about. I know an unexpected party. Roast mutton, no idea. A short rest, no idea. Overhill and Underhill. Are they on the Downs? Riddles in the Dark, I know that chapter very well. I feel like that's one of the most popular chapters in all of literature. Riddles in the Dark. Because I remember when I was in 8th or 9th grade, we did a riddle class where we were like trying to answer the riddles before we even read the chapter. And we had to like come up with our own or something. The first chapter, The Long Expected Party for Lord of the Rings. Love that. And we have Out of the Frying Pan into the Fire, Queer Lodgings, Flies and Spiders. I think I know that one because that one's Mirkwood. You have Barrels at a Bond, A Warm Welcome, On the Doorstep, Inside Information, Not at Home, Fire and Water, Gathering of the Clouds, A Thief in the Night. I know that chapter too, The Thief in the Night. The Clouds Burst, The Return Journey, and The Last Stage. So yeah, some of these are short chapters. The first chapter is long, and then after this, a lot of them are pretty short. I'm curious how the pacing is going to be. There's a song in most of the chapter? Excellent, love that. My copy does not have illustrations. It's just all text. Although, hold on. I don't have another copy of The Hobbit. I thought I did. No, I don't have another copy of The Hobbit. I have different copies of The Lord of the Rings right now, but no other copy of The Hobbit. Oh well. What is the most famous chapter in all of literature? That's the real question. Ooh, he made a recording of Riddles in the Dark. That sounds great. From Tolkien himself. Yeah, you do a tea drinking game. Yes, Mr. Nana, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, if you guys have some good illustrations, as we get to those chapters and points in the book, just throw them in the Discord, if you please. I would love that. I would really appreciate that. The anniversary edition was somewhat opulent. Good word. Opulent. Francisco. Yeah, it depends on how you define chapters. What a Nemo answer. Is there another channel? Right Conscious. No. Guy's a bit of an opposite to what we get here in terms of atmosphere. Still entertaining. I wonder what you think about it. Interesting. I'll check him out after. Check him, her, the guy. Guessing him. Yeah, Alan Lee. Ooh, I've seen some of whatchamacallit, Ted Naismith illustrations already because I took a gander at it because I was trying to come up with a thumbnail, and he had some thumbnails of this, but I didn't want to use them because that feels too copyright. So I just wanted to use a still. Ooh, a little Hobbiton in the Discord. Place looks so lush. I want to live there. Right Conscious. Never heard of the channel. Let's see, the 50th anniversary from an uncle. Ooh. Tolkien's illustrations, some of them are color plates. Yeah, Tolkien's illustrations. I do have some of Tolkien's illustrations. That's actually a good point. And he did a few illustrations. He did a lot of the illustrations of The Hobbit. So. Yeah, I do like Ted Naismith. He's a fan. I'm a fan of that dude. Yeah, check the Discord. Thanks for the send the things in the Discord if you guys got images. And here is the Discord, by the way. Hold on, let me copy paste it. And then we're gonna start reading in a minute. Or we'll start in 4 minutes, so we'll start at 12. Wait, no, 11:30. Gosh, I can't tell time. Ooh, Tolkien did an illustration for each chapter. That's so lovely. I can't wait. I feel like what's the first? I don't know if I can remember the first line in this novel. I'm like a bit of a first line snob. I love a good first line. What's the most popular first line in literature? I think this is in a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. I think that's the first line of The Hobbit, which is crazy that I remember that. But I feel like it's such a popular first line. I feel like it's got to be one of the most well-known. Ooh, cool illustrations. Ooh, Attila, that first illustration of the dwarves pouring out of the door. That's so good. Is this Alan Lee? Who did these illustrations? These are awesome. Ooh, Dave. Cool illustration of Gandalf. Yeah. Should I haven't even read all of the Narnia books. I did when I was, in elementary school, but I don't remember anything about them. But I do remember that first line because that's still one of the best first lines in any novel ever. What is it? There once was a boy named Eustace Clarence Scrubb, and he almost deserved it, or something like that. Oh, such a good line. You have the Book of Tolkien Illustrations. Okay, yeah, I'm actually gonna pick that up. The Book of Tolkien Illustrations. Give me a sec. Pictures by Tolkien. I hope it just follows along in the book for each one. Oh, what a cool guy. Yeah, this image of the of Hobbiton over the hill, Hobbiton across the water, is just stunning. Man, it's so nice. I'm pumped. All right, guys, we're gonna start reading. I am gonna get giddy from just being able to read Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. We're gonna start, guys. We're getting into it. All right, well, make sure everything's good. Kind of falling apart on Twitch. It keeps saying unstable. That's okay. I gotta figure that out later. I gotta figure out the banding issue later. But you guys are here for my lovely sultry voice, not my. Where's my pencil? Am I sitting on my pencil? Where did I put my pencil? There it is. Got it. All right, guys. Remember, no spoilers. I really don't know that much about The Hobbit. I know more maybe than your average person because I'm like a Lord of the Rings movie fan. Maybe you've seen the Hobbit movies twice. And what do you guys think? Can I call this my first time read? I haven't really technically read it for the first time in middle school because I wasn't a reader in middle school. But I'm going to call this my first time read. I think it's my first time read. Otherwise, I have to change the channel to second time read. Cecilia, what's up? All right. Yes, thank you, Kathy. I'm glad. First time read. Just time read, no first. Just a read. Alrighty. Guys, this is The Hobbit. This is my read of The Hobbit. I just want to look at maps for a second. Okay. Here we go. Everyone like the stream? Let's jump on a journey to go find the Arkenstone. Here we go. Chapter 1. An unexpected party. In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. Let's pause there for a second. No, I was going to take a note about that because I want to make a video now on the best first lines in literature of all time. I feel like I want to make a... Man, I hate when they do this, when they have a chapter and that's all the bit of end space that they give me to write all my essays or essay ideas. I gotta write really small. Analysis. In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. Also, one of the things that I'm really curious about with reading this book too is the lilt of the words. I think this is going to be an easier book to read. That's my guess. I think he's going to change his sentence structure a little bit to be a bit more childlike and a bit more easy to read. That's my guess. But we'll see because I've only read the first line. And I stopped to talk about the first line for about 2 minutes. In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole, filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. Oh, what a good... How good of a stage setting is this? Setting the stage so well. It had a perfectly round door like a porthole, painted green. Oh yeah, it is painted green in the movie. Well, in the Lord of the Rings movie it is, right? And then Sam's door is painted yellow. That's what I was thinking of. Although, yeah, never mind. I digress. It had a perfectly round door like a porthole, painted green, with a shiny yellow brass knob in the exact middle. You know what I've often thought about? I have to stop getting distracted, but this is you're in a John reading, so this is what we do. We just get distracted. I am very curious the physics of a door like that. Like, how do they hinge the door in Hobbit time? You know what I mean? That's the kind of stuff that goes through in my brain. Yeah, the genre of reading is John reading. Ooh, Kit Whitfield. Trig, if you can, throw that in the throw that article or throw that post or the posts or the blog in the Discord. Yeah, why did they put the knob in the middle? That's actually a really interesting point because you don't know which way it opens. Like, I remember seeing a video a long time ago about the design of doors. And Hobbit doors are poorly designed. But did he have a purpose for designing Hobbit doors the way he did? Because you don't know which way the door should open. If you're looking at it from the outside, and I turn the doorknob, obviously you push it in, and one side pushes a little easier than the other. But what is the purpose of having the doorknob in the middle? It would just make more sense if you put a doorknob on one side of it rather than the middle. I feel like, yeah, maybe aesthetics. Maybe this shows the aesthetics that maybe hobbits value aesthetics over practicality. But do they? Whimsy, I think, is a better word for it. Almost more than aesthetics. I like that word, Nemo. The hobbits are people that value whimsy. You know what? I'm going to make a whole video on this. Okay, I got to write a note. A discussion on Hobbit doors. That's going to be my most popular video of all time. Not. But I'm going to make a video on that. Hobbit doors. I like that word, Nemo. Thank you. Whimsy. Yeah, maybe they like circles. Also the idea of they didn't like the normal doors when the Scouring of the Shire came. Definitely an architectural choice. It's a poor architectural choice. I like how someone did the loading screen. All right, sorry. I can't get this distracted for The Hobbit. Although this is, again, what we're here for. Just a distracted reading. It had a perfectly round door, like a porthole. Also, what's a porthole, real quick? Let me look this up. Isn't that in a ship? Like it's a ship, right? A ship hole? I want to see what it looks like. Oh, okay. Like a ship window. I didn't know it was called a porthole. Okay. So portholes exist in ships in the Shire. It had a perfectly round door like a porthole, painted green, with a shiny yellow brass knob in the exact middle. The door opened to a tube-shaped hall like a tunnel, a very comfortable tunnel, without smoke, with paneled walls and floors tiled and carpeted, provided with polished chairs and lots of pegs for hats and coats. Huh. So Hobbit's like hosting. The Hobbit was fond of visitors. Well, we already know that from Lord of the Rings, so it's fun that we see that more and more. The Hobbit was fond of, there you go, of visitors. The tunnel wound on and on. Now, okay, so this is an interesting point. This is something I think you already see Tolkien doing for children a little bit more than adults. In The Lord of the Rings, I think he would write this line without the aside, or without the em dash, where he says, "The Hobbit was fond of visitors," because that's telling rather than showing. And he does do a good amount of telling. But I feel like in Lord of the Rings, he would make a line that would say, lots of pegs for hats and coats, and just kind of leave it at that. So we can kind of deduce that the Hobbit was fond of visitors. Maybe I'm overanalyzing that. But I'm just going to underline it. The tunnel wound on and on, going fairly, but not quite straight into the side of the hill. The hill, as all people for many miles round called it, and many little round doors opened out of it, first on one side and then on another. No going upstairs for the Hobbit. Bedrooms, bathrooms, cellars, pantries, lots of these. Wardrobes. He had a whole room devoted to clothes. Kitchens, dining rooms, all were on the same floor, and indeed on the same passage. The best rooms were all on the left-handed side, going in, for these were the only ones to have windows, deep-set round windows, looking over his garden, and meadows beyond, sloping down to the river. Does he live in a duplex? Why would, I guess because the hill is a lot bigger. Honestly, his illustration of the hill doesn't seem all that accurate, which sounds heretical for me to say. I need to look at this illustration again. Because why would windows only be on one side unless he's living in a duplex? Oh yeah, I guess you can kind of see that. Why doesn't he build more? So in this illustration, I don't know if you guys can see this. Here, join me on this journey. Okay, so this is his hill. This is the hill. These are the windows. Why can he not put windows on this side? I feel like that would not be that difficult for a Hobbit general contractor to be like, Bilbo, we can definitely get windows on that side. Maybe stability and structure. Yeah, landscaping. Honestly, that's a great point. That's where his garden is. The HOA won't allow it. Yeah, privacy, honestly, is a great point. Those are his private rooms. Thermal considerations is also another good idea. I love that you guys think of this stuff. This makes me so happy. This is the community that I love. There's a hill on the other side. It's dug in, so there's dirt. Yeah, maybe just storage areas. Maybe like cold cellars, I could imagine. That's where all the cold cellars were, which they kind of needed to be a little chillier. That kind of makes sense. Architecturally, that actually kind of makes sense. I like that. Inside is into the hill. Yeah, wine and pipeweed storage. Honestly, that sounds pretty valid to me. I actually think that's probably the answer. I love how we're just sitting and digesting and talking about the architecture of Hobbit holes. That makes me so happy. Honestly, so you can hide from your neighbors too. It's honestly like a fascinating thing to think about and talk about. And I'm not even just like doing this just to like have a discussion on this, but I actually think it's really interesting that there's windows on one side and not on the other. You definitely know that J.R.R. Tolkien probably had a reason for that. Because like he was like someone who probably liked, having get-togethers, but he also needed his time alone. Needed his time to study. I wonder if the study had a window, was one of the windowed rooms or not. It's also interesting that there's no smoke in this place. It's well ventilated. Okay. 15 minutes, we're 1 page in. So let's keep moving. Only one side to have windows, deep set round windows looking over his garden and meadows beyond, sloping down to the river. This hobbit was a very well-to-do hobbit, and his name was Baggins. The Bagginses had lived in the neighborhood of the hill for time out of mind, and people consider them very respectable, not only because most of them were rich, but also because they never had any adventures or did anything unexpected. You could tell what a Baggins would say on any question without the bother of asking him. This is a story of how a Baggins had an adventure and found himself doing and saying things altogether unexpected. He may have lost the neighbor's respect, but he gained, well, you will see whether he gained anything in the end. Oh, okay, he's getting a little fourth wall breaks in this, a little bit more than he does in Lord of the Rings. He doesn't really do that in Lord of the Rings. He does that maybe a bit in the beginning. I'm curious if that will keep on going on. Does he do that in Lord of the Rings? Yeah, like the third person narrator. Did he do that in the Lord of the Rings at all? Ruth, sorry, we only got through one paragraph. I don't think he does that. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think he does do that in Lord of the Rings. There may be one or times where you can kind of interpret it as that, but I don't know if he does. This is the way to tell a story, too, for a children's story. Like to include yourself as the narrator, like you're telling a bedtime story. Yeah, he told us information the characters knew. That's true. But not like this. Yeah, Kevin, exactly. Sam does it in the appendices. Interesting. All right, let's keep reading. Interesting that Bagginses are rich and just had no adventures. The mother of our particular hobbit. What is a hobbit? I suppose hobbits need some description nowadays, since they have become rare and shy of the big people, as they call us. Interesting. So Tolkien believes the hobbits exist today. Anybody seen a hobbit? They are, or were, a little people, about half our height, and smaller than the bearded dwarves. Hobbits have no beards. There is little or no magic about them, except the ordinary, everyday sort, which helps them to disappear quietly and quickly when large, stupid folk like you and me come blundering along, making a noise like elephants, which they can hear a mile off. They are inclined to be fat in the stomach. They dress in bright colors, chiefly green and yellow. Wear no shoes because their feet grow natural leathery soles and thick warm brown hair like the stuff on their heads, which is curly. Have long, clever brown fingers, good-natured faces, and laugh deep, fruity laughs, especially after dinner, which they have twice a day when they can get it. Now you know enough to go on with. As I was saying, so he keeps doing these asides, which is very children's story like. Asides, it'd be an interesting thing to talk about. The idea of writing asides within children's literature, and when it's appropriate and when it's not, and he says they're fruity. That's funny. Yeah, of course they exist today. I love that he includes that in there. It also is very childlike literature idea to do that. This is like Elf on the Shelf kind of. Like you increase the child's sense of wonder and make believe, so that a child, thinks that they're going to round a corner and be able to see a hobbit in real life. It's great. It's like inclusion into, like it's immediately immersive. That's really good writing. I want to think about that more. I got to think about that more and write an essay on that. If you said you hope to hear the rustling dells, signs of hobbits, or worried about orcs in the crags in the mountains where you grew up, love that. I mean, that's the sign of a good writer, someone who can do that really well. Hey, we already have 3 essays, and we're not even a page in, a full page in. Yikes! All right, let's keep reading. Now enough to go on with. As I was saying, the mother of this hobbit, of Bilbo Baggins, that is, was the famous Belladonna Took, one of the 3 remarkable daughters of the old Took, head of the hobbits, who lived across the water, the small river that ran at the foot of the hill. Interesting, it's just called the water and the hill. It was often said in other families that long ago one of the Took ancestors must have taken a fairy wife. That was, of course, absurd. But certainly there was still something not entirely hobbit-like about them. And once in a while, members of the Took clan would go and have adventures. They discreetly disappeared, and the family hushed it up. But the fact remained that the Tooks were not as respectable as the Bagginses, though they were undoubtedly richer. Interesting. That's really funny. So there's like a little rivalry between, not maybe a rivalry, but like between Pippin and Frodo. Pippin's family is richer, but Frodo's family is more respectable. Huh. I kind of love that. Not that Belladonna Took ever had any adventures after she became Mrs. Bungo Baggins. Bungo, that was Bilbo's father, built the most luxurious hobbit hole for her, and partly with her money. that was to be found either under the hill or over the hill or across the water. And there they remained to the end of their days. Still, it is probable that Bilbo, her only son, although he looked and behaved exactly like a second edition of his solid and comfortable father, got something a bit queer in his makeup from the Took side. Something that only waited for a chance to come out. The chance never arrived until Bilbo Baggins was grown up, being about 50 years old or so, and living in the beautiful hobbit hole built by his father, which I have just described for you, until he had, in fact, apparently settled down immovably. Adventure hits you when you least expect it. By some curious chance one morning long ago, in the quiet of the world, when there was less noise and more green, and the hobbits were still numerous and prosperous, and Bilbo Baggins was standing at his door after breakfast, smoking an enormous long wooden pipe that reached nearly down to his woolly toes, neatly brushed, Gandalf came by. That is such a Charles Dickens sentence. He just makes you hang on that. This is another literary thing that I think I'm learning a lot from Charles Dickens. If you want to create tension, honestly, really long sentences like this do that very well. Because he's making you hang on everything. He's putting a lot of asides in this, so you're not really getting to the end of the sentence, and you're kind of like losing patience. It was by some curious chance one morning long ago, in the quiet of the world, when there was still less noise and more green, and the hobbits were still numerous and prosperous. And Bilbo Baggins, at this point, you're like shaking Tolkien. Tell me what's happening! And Bilbo Baggins was standing at his door after breakfast, smoking an enormous long wooden pipe that reached nearly down to his woolly toes, neatly brushed. Gandalf came by. And then you go, who the heck is Gandalf? What the heck is that? Does that even mean? Oh, 1 second. I gotta clear my throat. Sorry, that was gross. Gandalf came by. Gandalf. If you had heard only a quarter of what I have heard about him, and I have heard only a very little of all that there is to hear, you would be prepared for any sort of remarkable tale. Tales and adventures sprouted up all over the place wherever he went, in the most extraordinary fashion. He had not been down that way under the hill for ages and ages, not since his friend the old Took died. Ha ha ha. Gandalf is friends with the old Took? The old Took is not Bellroar Took or Bullroar Took, right? I'm guessing that's not the same person. It is interesting. Okay. It makes sense that it would be. Or yeah, Bandorbris. Yeah, thank you. No, not Bullroar, but it's Bandorbris. Bullroar is much further back. Okay. Long sentences allow you to look over to see if the kids are still asleep. That's actually so hilarious. Honestly, it might be. In chapter 1, there's a part that says Gandalf hasn't brought fireworks to the Shire since the old Took died. Interesting. Old Took is Gerontis. Okay. The old Took was Gerontis Took, Bilbo's grandfather. Oh wow. Interesting that he takes a break from the Shire. Not since his friend the old Took died, in fact. And the hobbits had almost forgotten what he looked like. He had been away over the hill and across the water on business of his own, since they were all small hobbit boys and hobbit girls. I like it. It's like anything that is not the Shire or Hobbiton, is very far away. It's like he's away over the hill and across the water in the world doing other things. All that the unsuspecting Bilbo saw that morning was an old man with a staff. He had a tall, pointed blue hat, a long gray cloak, a silver scarf over which his long white beard hung down below his waist, and immense black boots. Why are they immense? Does Gandalf have big feet? Immense black boots. Interesting description. Good morning, said Bilbo, and he meant it. The sun was shining and the grass was very green. But Gandalf looked at him from under long, bushy eyebrows that stuck out further than the brim of his shady hat. What do you mean? He said. Do you wish me a good morning? Or mean that it is a good morning whether I want it or not? Or that you feel good this morning? Or that it is a morning to be good on? What a syntactical nerd. J.R. Tolkien, with his love of languages, just cannot let himself stop when he's talking about the syntax of a sentence and what it really means, or the usage of a sentence and the words here. The first line that Gandalf speaks is completely J.R. Tolkien coming through, just wanting to be nerdy. All of them at once, said Bilbo. And a very fine morning for a pipe of tobacco out of doors, into the bargain. If you have a pipe about you, sit down and have a fill of mine. There's no hurry. We have all the day before us. Then Bilbo sat down on a seat by his door, crossed his legs, and blew out a beautiful gray ring of smoke that sailed up into the air without breaking and floated away over the hill. That's cool. Very pretty, said Gandalf. But I have no time to blow smoke rings this morning. I am looking for someone to share in an adventure that I am arranging. And it's very difficult to find anyone. That is an interesting line. Oh, wow, we got someone rating from on Twitch. Discount, thanks. Everyone here, welcome to some storytelling for The Hobbit. We're just reading The Hobbit. Welcome. Okay, that is one of the most interesting lines that I feel like has been in this novel so far. I am looking for someone to share in an adventure that I am arranging, and it is very difficult to find anyone. Gandalf doesn't know about the One Ring, obviously. Or he does, but like he doesn't know where it is. Is he potentially... I guess maybe this is just too speculative. They're like trying to figure out... The thought that was going on in my head is he potentially looking for some of the bravest of the hobbits? Because he values hobbits at this point for reasons that we know in Lord of the Rings. They're a sturdy folk. And so I'm almost thinking that he's like around here going, I wonder if I can find someone that's worthy of an adventure that can potentially help me later on. It's like maybe he's just networking here. There's more backstory on this? Okay. And stuff I'll read later on. Not in The Hobbit, though, I'm guessing? Interesting. Okay. That's just a really interesting, ominous line. There's some read and find out here. Excellent. Okay. All right, let's keep reading. I mean, that's probably a long-term read and find out, but really fascinating line. Especially having read Lord of the Rings. Okay, let's keep reading. I should think so. In these parts, we are plain quiet folk and have no use for adventures. Nasty, disturbing, uncomfortable things. Make you late for dinner. I can't think what anybody sees in them, said our Mr. Baggins, and stuck one thumb behind his braces and blew out another, even bigger smoke ring. Then he took out his morning letters and began to read. pretending to take no more notice of the old man. That's hilarious, Bilbo. He had decided that he was not quite his sort and wanted him to go away. But the old man did not move. He stood leaning on his stick and gazing at the hobbit without saying anything, till Bilbo got quite uncomfortable and even a little cross. Bilbo is a little sassy guy. He's kind of like me. It's been a while since you read Tolkien, but in your head, the location of the One Ring was unknown almost to everyone, including the Maiar at this point. Yeah, it's probably true. I think so. Actually, think about that. Does anybody besides Gollum know where the One Ring is right now? Honestly, yeah, the power of stories in this book. There's probably an essay in that somewhere. I'll probably wait a little bit longer to talk about that one. No, so no one besides Gollum knows where the One Ring is. Interesting. Oh, maybe Tom Bombadil. Honestly, it's kind of valid. You guys think Tom would know? I feel like that's actually kind of valid. I mean, he might know. Huh. I know this story isn't about the ring, but I'm still going to be obsessed with thinking about that and talking about that in this story. Yeah, Tom might know, but he wouldn't care for sure. That's an interesting thing to talk about, or an interesting thing to think about. Man, I mean, I'm just nerding out about that a little bit. All right, anyway, let's keep reading. I got to stop getting so distracted because we're only on page 5 and we've been reading for a half hour. Good morning, he said at last. We don't want any adventures here, thank you. You might try over the hill or across the water. By this, he meant that the conversation was at an end. Little sassy Bilbo. What a lot of things you do use good morning for, said Gandalf. Now you mean that you want to get rid of me, and that it won't be good till I move off. Not at all, my dear sir. Let me see. I don't think I know your name. Interesting, because he's like nervous that he's not being hospitable now, and I think that's like maybe one of the main things of hobbits is hospitality. This is why we read in publication order. I don't think I know your name. Yes, my dear sir, and I do know your name, Mr. Bilbo Baggins, and you do know my name, though you don't remember that I belong to it. I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me. To think that I should have lived to be good-morninged by Belladonna Took's son, as if I was selling buttons at the door. They're both so sassy. Bilbo is such a better sassy match for Gandalf than Frodo is. Their relationship is going to make me crack up, I think, in this book. So far, I really do like Bilbo. He's just more sassy than Frodo, like significantly more sassy than Frodo. Gandalf, good gracious me. Not the wandering wizard that gave old Took a pair of magical diamond studs that fastened themselves and never came undone till ordered. What? Not the wandering wizard that gave old Took a pair of magical diamond studs that fastened themselves and never came undone till ordered. What? How? I know they're cufflinks. That's just a crazy detail to throw in there. That's just bizarre. All right. I don't know more about that story. Not the fellow who used to tell such wonderful tales at parties about dragons and goblins and giants, and all the rescue of princesses and the unexpected luck of widows' sons. Not the man that used to make such particularly excellent fireworks. I remember those. Old Took used to have them on Midsummer's Eve. Splendid. They used to go up like great lilies and snapdragons and laburnums of fire and hang in the twilight all evening. Now, Wonderful tales at parties about dragons and goblins and giants. And the rescue of princesses. Isn't Baron and Luthien like a rescue story? We get something about that in the songs in the Lord of the Rings, about how one of them is in the like grasp of Sauron or something like that, or Morgoth. I forgot which one it was. And then the other one comes and rescues him. Is he telling a story about them? And then the unexpected luck of widows' sons? You know what? It's actually really interesting because, so this is a fun thing. I can't write. This sucks because I can't write about this. So someone says it's a reverse. The idea of the rescue of princesses being reverse is syntactically what Gandalf is doing in this sentence before. So Gandalf is going, what do you mean good morning? We should go, what do you mean the rescue of princesses? Is it that the princesses are getting rescued or the princesses are doing the rescuing? Baron is a princess to be, or do you mean that Baron is a princess to be rescued? He's a trophy husband. Tolkien was a widow's son too. Interesting. And the unexpected luck of widow's sons. Does someone in the Lord of the Rings realm have is someone a widow's son? I don't know. I think it's just interesting. Yeah, I'm overthinking it, but that's what I do. That's what this whole channel is. Just John overthinking everything. I just think it's fun to overthink things. All right, let's keep reading. You will notice already that Mr. Baggins was not quite so prosy as he liked to believe. Also, that he was very fond of flowers. Dear me, he went on. Not the Gandalf who was responsible for so many quiet lads and lasses going off into the blue for mad adventures. Into the blue, into the sea? What is going off into the blue? Going off to the blue wizards? The blue horizon? Yeah, into the wild? Oh, the blue mountains, maybe? I like that. Maybe just yonder. I think it is just yonder. That's like a Hobbit phrase meaning yonder, off into the distance. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Into the blue wizards. The blue is capitalized there, though, so it just kind of threw me for a loop. Anything from climbing trees to visiting elves. Or sailing in ships. Sailing to other shores. Bless me. Life used to be quite I mean, you used to upset things badly in these parts once upon a time. I beg your pardon, but I had no idea you were still in business. Where else should I be? Said the wizard. All the same, I am pleased to find you remember something about me. You seem to remember my fireworks kindly, at any rate. And that is not without hope. Indeed, for your old grandfather took's sake, and for the sake of poor Belladonna, I will give you what you asked for. I beg your pardon, I haven't asked for anything. Yes, you have. Twice now. My pardon. I give it to you. In fact, I will go so far as to send you on this adventure. Very amusing for me, very good for you, and profitable too, very likely, if you ever get over it. Huh. Bilbo's asked for something twice now. Now again. Wrong line. Twice now. How? is Gandalf seeing in that conversation? I beg your pardon. Oh, okay. Oh, my pardon. Duh. Okay. I thought there was something. Okay, that was dumb. Sorry. I thought there was something that he was like asking to go on an adventure in like some hidden syntactical way. I was about to find that. I was about to go on a mission. So he goes, yes, you have. Twice now. My pardon. I give it to you. In fact, I'll go as far as to send you on this adventure. Very amusing for me. Very good for you. And profitable too. Very likely. If you ever get over it. Sorry, I don't want adventures, thank you. Not today. Good morning. But please, come to tea anytime you like. Why not tomorrow? Come tomorrow. Goodbye. With that, the hobbit turned and scuttled inside his round green door, and shut it as quickly as he dared, not to seem rude. Wizards, after all, are wizards. What does that sentence mean? Wizards, after all, are wizards. What on earth did I ask him for tea for? He said to himself as he went to the pantry. That is all of us introverts. Why did I say I would go to that outing? Why did I say I would go to that party? What am I doing? That's true. Yeah, wizards are being rude to wizard might not be the wisest thing to do. Gandalf, in the meantime, he had only just had breakfast, but he thought a cake or two and a drink of something would do him good after his fright. Gandalf, in the meantime, was still standing outside the door and laughing long but quietly. After a while, he stepped up, and with a spike on his staff, scratched a queer sign on the hobbit's beautiful green front door. Then he strode away. Just about the time when Bilbo was finishing his second cake and beginning to think that he had escaped adventures very well. The next day, he had almost forgotten about Gandalf. He did not remember things very well unless he put them down on his engagement tablet. He's got a little iPad like this. Gandalf Tea Wednesday. Yesterday he had been too flustered to do anything of the kind. Just before tea time came, there came a tremendous ring on the front doorbell, and then he remembered. He rushed and put on the kettle, and put on another cup and saucer, and an extra cake or two, and ran to the door. I am so sorry to keep you waiting, he was going to say, but when he saw that it was not Gandalf at all, it was a dwarf with a blue beard, tucked into a golden belt. A blue beard? Are we talking about a gray beard? That kind of looks a little blue? Or are they dyeing their beards blue? Or do they grow blue beards? Yeah, I think it's a shade of gray. I'm just going to say gray right there because that's going to throw me for a loop. Bluish gray? Yeah, we'll say that. I'm just imagining it neon blue. They're all dyeing their beards different colors, and this guy's got a neon blue beard. Oh, that's kind of crazy. It was a dwarf with a blue beard tucked into a golden belt. Very bright eyes under his dark green hood. As soon as the door was opened, he pushed inside, just as if he had been expected. Oh. He hung his hood cloak on the nearest peg. Dwalin, at your service, he said with a low bow. Bilbo Baggins, at yours, said the hobbit, too surprised to ask any questions for the moment. When the silence that followed had become uncomfortable, he added, I am just about to take tea. Pray come and have some with me. A little stiff, perhaps. But he meant it kindly. And what would you do if an uninvited dwarf came and hung up his things inside your hall without a word of explanation? This is really fun because this is like, there's a point to it where you're reading this to your child and then you can have a conversation with your kid about this. This is one of those moments where like you can go and check, what do you think about this? And if your kid's still asleep, then you leave the room. Or if your kid's asleep, you leave the room. And then all of a sudden, if your kid's still awake, you can have a discussion. What would you do if a dwarf came into your house and just hung up his things and, wanted to have a meal? It's a great discussion. Look at that. Fourth wall breaks. A lot of fourth wall breaks. They had not been at table long. In fact, they hardly reached the third cake when there came another, even louder ring at the bell. Really quickly, this is like maybe just a random question. What are these cakes? What is the comparison for these cakes? Are these like scones? Like a little English? Are they like little English muffins? Hey, what's up, Johannes? Seed cakes? Okay, how big are these seed cakes? Honestly, it's an interesting question, but I would do, if someone just came like that, I might do the same thing as Bilbo right here. Be like, you can have some tea if you want, but I don't really want you in my house. Cake size, a kilo each. Spice cakes. That sounds delicious. They're on their third cake, so they got some appetites. One serving of cake, like a little slice of cake. Yeah, I kind of like that, a little slice. Like a bun. Yeah, they hardly reached their third does to me suggest a little smaller too. Like a little, third slice, I would probably say. Or to me, it's like little scones. A kilo each. I didn't even know what a kilo is. let's be honest. My understanding of that, of size and weight in cooking, is very, very minimal. Although I do love cooking. Yeah, like a little muffin. I'm kind of with that. 2.2 pounds. Okay. So it's a big cake. Ooh, lemon poppy seed bread. Okay, here's the question for the chat. If you had to host a little brunch, what cake would you make? And honestly, you know what we should do every single chapter? Because I feel like there's going to be a lot of food in this chapter. Or in this entire book. We got to do like a little cooking every single chapter. We should have like a treat. I'll do like a live stream cook of let's bake one of these cakes. Coffee cakes, tea cakes, different flavoring. You know what I had the other day that was incredible? I've had these before, but Earl Grey scone. I kind of want to make one. Apple turnovers. A little carrot cake. Honestly, a carrot cake seems kind of valid because they love their veggies, their fruits and veggies, they're gardeners. So I feel like that would be pretty valid. Bakewell tarts, carrot cake, apple turnover, banana bread, poppy seed cakes feels kind of accurate. Earl Grey cupcakes, lemon drizzle cake. Raiding the fridge now. Okay, this is what we're gonna do. I think maybe once every chapter, if there's food in the chapter, maybe I'm gonna just do like a live stream on YouTube, only on YouTube, of like let's chill, and it'll be a members only discussion. Let's chill, and anybody can watch though, and chat about Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit while we make a poppy seed cake or a lemon drizzle cake or something. Yeah. We're going to do that. I don't know when, but we're going to do that. So it's going to be an unexpected party. They had not been at the table long. In fact, they had hardly reached their third cake when there came another even louder ring at the bell. "Excuse me," said the Hobbit, and off he went to the door. "So you have got here at last." That was what he was going to say to Gandalf this time. But it was not Gandalf. Instead, there was a very old-looking dwarf on the step with a white beard and a scarlet hood. And he, too, hopped inside as soon as the door was open, just as if he had been invited. "I see they have begun to arrive already," he said, when he caught sight of Dwalin's green hood hanging up. Dwalin is the first one that came. Okay. Dwalin. Does that name come up in the Lord of the Rings in the appendices? Dwalin? Dwalin. I don't think so. Dwalin's green hood hanging up. He hung his red one next to it. And Balin, at your service. Rest in peace, Balin. I love you, buddy. He said with his hand on his breast. Thank you, said Bilbo with a gasp. It was not the correct thing to say. But they have begun to arrive. But they have begun to arrive. Had flustered him badly. So that's true, because it's talking about the plural there. This would probably freak him out. He liked visitors, but he liked to know them before they arrived. And he preferred to ask them himself. He had a horrible thought that the cakes might run short. And then he, as the host, knew his duty and stuck to it, however painful. He might have to go without. That's great to me, because he's freaking out now because his main concern is that he's not going to have enough food to host this party. And that seems like the greatest Hobbit of sins. That if you don't have enough food, if you don't have enough cakes to the people that are coming into your house, like they probably always, this is such a good cultural thing to say and to note. Their Hobbit concerns are about how they can better be hospitable to people, which is a great cultural thing to have. Like Bilbo is like a little curt, a little short. He's like, doesn't necessarily want this, but he's still letting them come in. He's still giving them cakes. That's kind of cool. Like, this is it's a cultural movement right here. Like, very good cultural writing. Hobbit culture. Come along in and have some tea, he managed to say, after taking a deep breath. A little beer would suit me better, if it is all the same to you, my good sir, said Balin with the white beard. But I don't mind some cake. Oh, seed cake, if you have any. Okay, so he does have some seed. Oh, maybe. I don't know if he has some seed cake. We'll see. So seed cake does seem like the thing that at least Balin is looking for. Lost, Bilbo found himself answering, to his own surprise. And he found himself scuttling off, too, in the cellar to fill a pint beer mug, and then to the pantry to fetch 2 beautiful round seed cakes, which he had baked that afternoon for his after-supper morsel. After-supper morsel. I'm going to start calling my dessert after-supper morsels. Should we have some after-supper morsel? When he got back, Balin and Dwalin were talking at the table like old friends. As a matter of fact, they were brothers. Oh, interesting. I mean, that makes sense. Balin and Dwalin. I don't remember the movies all that much, but I do want to look up Dwalin on Google real quick to see which dwarf he was. Oh, interesting. That's Dwalin. Dwalin is the Graham McTavish. Huh. Interesting. I would not have thought that was Balin's brother. Funky. Funky. Okay. Well, that's kind of cool. Big hammer, twin axes, knuckle dusters. Balin is using Jedi mind tricks to get beer and cake from Bilbo. Also, what is Bilbo's response there? Lost? Or, he says lots. I can't read. Sorry, lots, not lost. I was going, why does he say lost? It's just that I can't read. Okay. Bilbo plumped down the beer and the cakes in front of them, when loud came a ring at the bell again. And then another ring. Gandalf for certain this time, he thought, as he puffed along the passage. Is he smoking, or is that just like for his walking? But it was not. It was 2 more dwarves, both with blue hoods, silver belts, and yellow beards. Huh. and each of them carried a bag of tools and a spade. Weird. What's the backstory behind them carrying a spade? They just bury someone? In they hopped, as soon as the door began to open. Bilbo was hardly surprised at all. "What can I do for you, my dwarves?" he said. "Keely at your service," said the one, and Feely added the other. And they both swept off their blue hoods and bowed. "At yours and your families," replied Bilbo, remembering his manners this time. "Dwalin and Balin here already, I see," said Keely. "Let us join the throng." "Throng," thought Mr. Baggins. "I don't like the sound of that. I really must sit down for a minute and collect my wits and have a drink." He had only just had a sip in the corner, while the 4 dwarves sat round the table and talked about mines and gold and troubles with goblins, and the depredation of dragons, and lots of other things which he did not understand, and did not want to, for they sounded much too adventurous, when ding-dong-a-ling-dang, his bell rang again. That's a cool doorbell. How did doorbells work before electricity? That sounds like a really basic question, but I've never thought about that before in my life. Is a doorbell a string that you pull? Is it a bell on the outside of the door that you just like clang? A door knocker? It's probably not a door knocker. Maybe a door knocker that like pulls a string. It's a bell. I know it's a bell, but like, how does it? I'm thinking the bell is inside the house. No way, they're still used in your town. That is so quaint. I want to live in a town full of doorbells, like actual bells. So it's a bell on the inside with strings on the outside. So you just go and like pull a lever, and then the doorbell dings on the inside. That's so cool. Now I want to do research on the history of doorbells. Maybe there's going to be a video coming about the history of doorbells. Why have I never thought about that before? That's like a fun little fact. Man, we are getting distracted on this read today. That's kind of cool. Huh, never thought about that really. Yeah, everyone liked the stream too. Johannes, thanks. Everyone like the stream. Make sure you like the stream on YouTube. I don't think you can do that on Twitch, but if you can, do it on Twitch. There's like 10 people watching on Twitch. That's kind of cool. Did not think I was going to have anybody on Twitch. Just stream to Twitch. Okay. Where am I? Seed cake, if you have any. Yada, yada, yada. Yellow beards. In they hopped as the door began. I'm way past that. Ding, dong, a ling, dang. His bell rang again, as if some naughty little hobbit boy was trying to pull the handle off. "Someone at the door," he said, blinking. "Some 4, I should say by the sound," said Feely. "Besides, we saw them coming along behind us in the distance." The poor little hobbit sat down in the hall and put his head in his hands, and wondered what had happened, and what was going to happen, and whether they would all stay to supper. Then the bell rang again, louder than ever, and he had to run to the door. It was not 4 after all. It was 5. Another dwarf had come along while he was wandering in the hall. He had hardly turned the knob before they were all inside, bowing and saying, "At your service," one after another. Dory, Nori, Ori, Oin, and Glowin were their names. Oh my god, I love Glowin. And very soon 2 purple hoods, a gray hood, a brown hood, and a white hood were hanging on the pegs. And off they marched, with their broad hands stuck in their gold and silver belts, to join the others. Already it had almost become a throng. Some called for ale, and some for porter, and one for coffee, and all of them for cakes. So the Hobbit was very busy for a while. A big jug of coffee had just been set in the hearth. The seed cakes were gone, and the dwarves were starting on a round of buttered scones. Interesting. Okay, so the cakes are not necessarily scones. They're different. Buttered scones. Yum. When there came a loud knock. Not a ring, but a hard rat-tat on the Hobbit's bountiful green door. Somebody was banging with a stick. Bilbo rushed along the passage, very angry, and altogether bewildered and bewothered. Is that an actual word? That's great. Oin and Gloin rhyme. Yep. Owen, should I call it Owen and Glowin or Oin and Gloin? That's always been a debate. I kind of like Glowin. And Owen. Like Owen Wilson. We'll call him Owen Wilson from this point on. Remember the recent open the door guy? He went wild with a literal doorbell. Huh? Glowin? So would you guys vote Glowin or Gloin? Or Glon? Ain and Glon? Yeah. I know who Glowin's son is. The latter? Glon? Glon. I like Glowin. I kind of like Glowin. I think I'm going to stick with Glowin. It's the I and not I. Gloyin. Norse name pronunciation? Interesting. Gloin, please. I think I'm going to stick with Glowin. Owen and Glowin. Because I like a little bit of... We'll go with Owen Wilson. We'll call him Owen Wilson. Maybe I should read him in an Owen Wilson voice. Anytime Owen speaks, I'll go, hey. I'll speak in an Owen Wilson voice. No, I'm not going to do that to you guys. Where am I? Okay, so Gandalf's probably finally come. Rat-a-tat on the beautiful green door. Somebody was banging with a stick. Bilbo rushed along the passage, very angry, and altogether bewildered and bewothered. Is bewothered a word? This also seems like something like this is so much funnier initially than the Lord of the Rings. Unless maybe I need to reread the first chapter of Lord of the Rings. I do think that there was some funny stuff in there, but it's like it is hilarious. These are all real Norse names. I love that. Bewothered is a word ever since Tolkien wrote it in that book. Yeah, that's honestly the right perspective. It's how you feel at Wuthering Heights. Bewothered. Oh my gosh, Bewuthering Heights. I need to write a book called Bewuthering Heights. How I hate Wuthering Heights. So it was actually a word that he invented, but now it's in the dictionary. That is great. I love that so much. When Tolkien invented a word and it made its way into the dictionary. Hold on, I gotta write a little note. I might write an essay on that. Cause I gotta do some research on that bewothered word. Bewothered. We'll look it up. This was most awkward. This was the most awkward Wednesday he ever remembered. He pulled open the door with a jerk, and they all fell in, one on top of the other. More dwarves. 4 more. And there was Gandalf behind, leaning on a staff and laughing. He had made quite a dent on the beautiful door. Interesting. He had also, by the way, knocked out the secret mark that he had put there the morning before. Interesting. Carefully, he said. It's not like you, Bilbo, to keep friends waiting on the mat. And then open the door like a pop gun. Let me introduce Biffer, Boffer, Bomber, and especially Thorin. Thorin! At your service, said Biffer, Boffer, and Bomber, standing in a row. Then they hung up 2 yellow hoods and a pale green one, and also a sky blue one with a long silver tassel. This last belonged to Thorin. Interesting that it has a tassel. An enormously important dwarf. In fact, no other than the great Thorin Oakenshield himself, who is not at all pleased at falling flat on Bilbo's mat with Biffer, Boffer, and Bomber on top of him. For one thing, Bomber was immensely fat and heavy. Thorin, indeed, was very haughty and said nothing about service. But poor Mr. Baggins said he was sorry so many times that at last he grunted, "Pray don't mention it," and stopped frowning. Interesting that Thorin is a grump. Or just very haughty. I don't remember the movie all that much, but I don't think that he falls on top of them all. Isn't there a scene where the Biffer, Boffer, and Bomber fall, and then Thorin is just turning around and he's right there? Maybe, I don't remember. Yeah, he's pretty old, that's true. In the movie, he's late. Okay. In the movie, he comes alone. Interesting. Okay. Fascinating. Now that we are all here, said Gandalf, looking at the row of 13 hoods, the best detachable party hoods, and his own hat hanging on the pegs. Quite a merry gathering. I hope there is something left for the latecomers to eat and drink. What's that? Tea? No, thank you. A little red wine, I think, for me. And for me, said Thorin. And raspberry jam and apple tart, said Biffer. And mince pies and cheese, said Boffer. And pork pie and salad, said Bomber. And more cakes and ale and coffee, if you don't mind, called the other dwarves through the door. Put on a few eggs, there's a good fellow. Or put on a few eggs, there's a good fellow, Gandalf called after him, as the hobbit stumped off to the pantries. And just bring out the cold chicken and pickles. Seems to know as much about the inside of my larders as I do myself, thought Mr. Baggins, who was feeling positively flummoxed. Now, that's actually a really interesting line as well. That makes me think that Gandalf was scouting out Bilbo for a long time. Potentially like the day before, maybe Bilbo had slaughtered a chicken or had gone to the market to buy a chicken. And Gandalf saw that and knew that he had a chicken in there because he wouldn't have eaten the whole thing. So Gandalf must have been scouting him out a long time. Or he broke in when Bilbo was sleeping and he checked out what he had in the pantry. Or he's a wizard, that's true. But how would a wizard know that? Does a wizard have I don't think that really explains it. Gandalf just knows Hobbit party tendencies. Honestly, that's probably the most valid answer right there. He just knows what hobbits would have and what they wouldn't have. Maybe they would always have like a chicken. A roast chicken somewhere. Roast chicken? Yeah, but I like the idea that he was watching him before. Seems to know as much about the inside of my larders as I do myself, thought Mr. Baggins, who was feeling positively flummoxed, and was beginning to wonder whether a most wretched adventure had not come right into his house. By the time he had got all the bottles and the dishes and the knives and the forks and the glasses and the plates and the spoons and things piled up on big trays, he was getting very hot and red in the face and annoyed. This is really well written. The sentence structure is much easier than Lord of the Rings. Except this word. Confusticate and bebother these dwarves. Confusticate. I've never heard that word before. Confusticate. And bebother these dwarves, he said aloud. Why don't they come and lend a hand? Lo and behold, there stood Balin and Dwalin at the door of the kitchen, and Feely and Keely behind them. And before he could say knife, they had whisked the trays and a couple of small tables onto the parlor and set out everything afresh. Gandalf sat at the head of the party with the 13 dwarves all round, and Bilbo sat on a stool at the fireside, nibbling at a biscuit. His appetite was quite taken away, and trying to look as if this was all perfectly ordinary and was not in the least an adventure. The dwarves ate and ate, and talked and talked, and time got on. At last they pushed their chairs back, and Bilbo made a move to collect the plates and glasses. I suppose you will all stay to supper, he said, in his politest, unpressing tones. Of course, said Thorin. And after, we shan't get through the business till late. And we must have some music first, now, to clear up. Thereupon the 12 dwarves, not Thorin, he was too important, and stayed talking to Gandalf, jumped to their feet and made tall piles of all the things. Off they went, not waiting for trays, balancing columns of plates, each with a bottle on top with one hand, while the Hobbit ran after them almost squeaking with fright. Please be careful, and please don't trouble, I can manage. But the dwarves only started to sing. Chip the glasses and crack the plates. Blunt the knives and bend the forks. That's what Bilbo Baggins hates. Smash the bottles and burn the corks. Cut the cloth and tread on the fat. Pour the milk on the pantry floor. Leave the bones on the bedroom mat. Splash the wine on every door. Dump the crocks in a boiling bowl. Pound them up with a thumping pole. And when you've finished, if any are whole, send them down the hall to roll. That's what Bilbo Baggins hates. So carefully with the plates. they're good at just coming up with random songs. I love that. That's kind of cool. They're like an ad lib. What's that word? Like freestyle. There, that's the word I'm looking for. They can freestyle a song. That's pretty impressive, honestly. Interesting poem. Or interesting song, I should say. And of course they did none of these dreadful things, and everything was cleaned and put away safe as quickly as lightning, while the Hobbit was turning round and round in the middle of the kitchen trying to see what they were doing. Then they went back and found Thorin with his feet on the fender smoking a pipe. What is the fender? Is that a piece of furniture? The songs are great in the first movie. Yeah, improvisation, thank you. I gotta rewatch to get the songs. What is the fender? I actually don't remember this. The only song that I really remember from the movie is the next one. The Far Over the Misty Mountains Cold. Footrest? Yeah, maybe a footrest. A bit in front of the fireplace. Great. Okay, interesting. Fireplace furniture. Huh. Okay, that makes sense. The fender. He had a car in his living room. All right, let's keep reading. Where am I? Where's the fender? He was blowing the most enormous smoke rings, or wherever he told one to go, wherever he told one to go, it went. Up the chimney, or behind the clock on the mantelpiece, or under the table, or round and round the ceiling. But wherever it went, it was not quick enough to escape Gandalf. Pop. He sent a smaller smoke ring from his short clay pipe straight through each one of Thorin's. Then Gandalf's smoke ring would go green and come back over to hover over the wizard's head. He had a cloud of them about him already. And in the dim light, it made him look strange and sorcerous. Interesting. Bilbo stood still and watched. He loved smoke rings. And then he blushed to think how proud he had been yesterday morning of the smoke rings he had sent up the wind over the hill. Now for some music, said Thorin. Bring out the instruments. Keely and Feely rushed for their bags and brought back little fiddles. Dori, Nori, and Ori brought out flutes from somewhere inside their coats. Bomber produced a drum from the hall. Biffer and Boffer went out, too, and came back with clarinets that they had left among the walking sticks. Dwalin and Balin said, Excuse me, I left mine in the porch. Just bring mine in with you, said Thorin. They came back with vials as big as themselves, and with Thorin's harp wrapped in a green cloth. It was a beautiful golden harp, and when Thorin struck it, all the music began at once. So ruddy and sweet that Bilbo forgot everything else, and was swept away into dark lands under strange moons, far over the water and very far from his hobbit hole under the hill. Interesting. The first, again, this is the significance of songs in Middle-earth. Like, this is even not greater than some of the Lord of the Rings stuff. Like, I feel like the center of all, creation and song, or it feels like the Eden. This feels like the Eden. And the more happy people sing, I feel like the closer they are to the Shire. But this is also the first time that he's up for adventure. Like, this song actually is transforming his mind. Which is obviously true of music. I love that. A dark came into the room from the little window that opened in the side of the hill. The firelight flickered. It was April. And still they played on, while the shadows of Gandalf's beard wagged against the wall. The dark filled all the room, and the fire died down. And the shadows were lost, and still they played on. And suddenly, first one and then another, they began to sing as they played. Deep-throated singing of the dwarves in the deep places of their ancient homes. And this is like a fragment of their song, if it can be like their song without their music. I would love, does anybody do this on YouTube? Like, does anybody have I would love all these instruments specifically. I want some fiddles. I want a harp. I want someone to make this music exactly how it is in in my imagination right now. Wait till the Silmarillion. No, did I say I was going to sing every song in the Hobbit? I think my intention was on the second time read that I do through, that I'll actually come up with maybe some music to some of the songs, even though I'm not very good at that. No accurate version exists. Bummer. They're all based on the movie. Bummer. The movie version is pretty good, though. I will say that song gets stuck in my head every once in a while. Yeah, it's sans instruments, which is a bummer. I'm curious how this would sound with all these instruments. All right, I'm gonna speak the song. Yeah, the movie version is great, I do have to admit. Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, to seek the pale enchanted gold. The dwarves of yore made mighty spells, while hammers fell like ringing bells, in places deep where dark things sleep, in hollow halls beneath the fells. Ooh, where dark things sleep. Yikes. For ancient king and elvish lord, there many a gleaming golden hoard. They shaped and wrought, and light they caught, to hide in gems on hilt of sword. Interesting. There are many a gleaming golden hoard. They shaped and wrought, and light they caught, to hide in gems on hilt of sword. Sting? On silver necklaces they strung, the flowering stars on crowns they hung. The dragon fire and twisted wire, they mesh the light of moon and sun. That's crazy. Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old. Like, that stuff makes me think that the dwarves were the greatest smiths. Not Celebrimbor. Celebrimborn? Celebrimbor. Maybe. Forgot his name. To dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day to claim our long forgotten gold. Goblets they carve there for themselves, and harps of gold where no man delves. To lay, there they lay long, and many a song was sung unheard by men or elves. The pines were roaring on the heights, the winds were moaning in the night. The fire was red, it flaming spread. The trees like torches blazed with light. The bells were ringing in the dale, and men looked up with faces pale. Then dragons' ire, more fierce than fire, lay low their towers and houses frail. The mountains smoked beneath the moon. The dwarves they heard the tramp of doom. They fled their hall to dying fall, beneath his feet, beneath the moon. Far over the misty mountains grim, the dungeons deep and caverns dim, we must away ere break of day to win our harps and gold from him. Interesting. Interesting. Celebrimbor was the greatest elvish smith of the age. Interesting. For Celebrimbor, it's an art form. For the dwarves, it's a way of life. As they sang, the Hobbit fell the love of beautiful things, made by hands and cunning, and by magic moving through him. A fierce and jealous love, the desire of the hearts of dwarves. That's a weird sentence. Kind of crazy. Then something tookish woke up inside him, and he wished to go see the great mountain, and hear the pine trees and the waterfalls, and explore the caves, and wear a sword instead of a walking stick. He looked out of the window. The stars were out in a dark sky above the trees. He thought of the jewels of the dwarves shining in dark caverns. Suddenly in the wood beyond the water, a flame leapt up. Probably something probably somebody lighting a wood fire. And he thought of plundering dragons settling on his quiet hill and kindling it all up to flame. He shuddered. And very quickly he was plain Mr. Baggins, a bag end, under the hill again. He got up trembling. He had less than half a mind to fetch the lamp, and more than half a mind to pretend to, and go and hide behind the beer barrels in the cellar, and not come out again until all the dwarves had gone away. Suddenly he found that the music and the singing had stopped, and they were all looking at him, with eyes shining in the dark. "Where are you going?" said Thorin, in a tone that seemed to show that he guessed both halves of the hobbit's mind. "What about a little light?" said Bilbo apologetically. "We like the dark," said the dwarves. "Dark for dark business. There are many hours before dawn." "Of course," said Bilbo, and sat down in a hurry. He missed the stool and sat in the fender, knocking over the poker and shovel with a crash. "Hush," said Gandalf. "Let Thorin speak." And this is how Thorin began. There's a lot of tension in this first chapter. He just jumps right into the story. This is really excellent. Like, truly, truly excellent. This is good. Gandalf, dwarves, and Mr. Baggins. We are met together in the house of our friend and fellow conspirator, this most excellent and audacious hobbit. May the hair on his toes never fall out. All praise to his wine and ale. I am going to say that whenever I really esteem a person from now on. May the hair on your toes never fall out. That is such a good sentence. He paused for breath and for a polite remark from the hobbit. But the compliments were quite lost on poor Bilbo Baggins, who was wagging his mouth in protest at being called audacious, and worst of all, a fellow conspirator. No noise came out. He was so flummoxed. So Thorin went on. We are all met to discuss our plans, our ways, means, policy, and device. We shall soon, before the break of day, start on our long journey. A journey from which some of us, or perhaps all of us, except our friend and counselor, the ingenious wizard Gandalf, may never return. It is a solemn moment. Our object is, I take it, well known to us all. To the estimable Mr. Baggins, and perhaps to one or two of the younger dwarves, I think I should be right in naming Keely and Feely, for instance. The exact situation at the moment may require a little brief explanation. This was Thorin's style. He was an important dwarf, if he had been allowed. He probably would have gone on like this until he was out of breath, without telling anyone there anything that was not already known. But he was rudely interrupted. Poor Bilbo couldn't bear it any longer. At "may never return," he began to feel a shriek coming up inside. And very soon it burst out like the whistle of an engine coming out of a tunnel. All the dwarves sprang up, knocking over the table. Gandalf struck a blue light on the end of his magic staff, and in its firework glare, the poor little hobbit could be seen kneeling on the hearthrug, shaking like a jelly that was melting. Then he fell flat on the floor and kept on calling out, struck by lightning, over and over again. And that was all they can get out of him for a long time. So they took him and laid him out of the way on the drawing room sofa, with a drink at his elbow, and they went back to their dark business. "Excitable little fellow," said Gandalf as they sat down again. "Gets funny, queer fits. He is one of the best, as fierce as a dragon in a pinch." Gandalf, he's got to tone down his praise of Bilbo right now. I don't know if Bilbo is that. Yeah, he's relatable. If he didn't, they might not have taken him. Honestly, yeah, it's probably the truth. It makes me think, what did Gandalf see in Bilbo? Man, what did he see in him? I don't know. If you have ever seen a dragon in a pinch, you will realize that this was only poetically exaggerated. This was only poetical exaggeration applied to any hobbit. Even to old Took's great-granduncle Bullroarer. Okay, there you go. So we got to find the family tree. Who was so huge for a hobbit that he could ride a horse. He charged the ranks of the goblins of Mount Graham in the Battle of the Green Fields, and knocked their king, Golfimble, Golf thimbles, head clean off with a wooden club. Golf? That's hilarious. It sailed 100 yards through the air and went down a rabbit hole. And in this way, the battle was won in the game of golf, invented at the same moment. Golf thimble. That's hilarious. I didn't know that that was the guy's name. That is incredible. In the meanwhile, however, Bull Roarer's greater descendant was reviving in the drawing room. After a while and a drink, he crept nervously to the door of the parlor. This is what he heard. Glowin speaking. Humph. Or some snort more or less like that. Will he do you think? It is all very well for Gandalf to talk about this hobbit being fierce, but only one shriek like that in a moment of excitement would be enough to wake the dragon and all his relatives, and killed a lot of us. I think it sounded more like a fright than excitement. In fact, if it had not been for the sign on the door, I should have been sure we had come to the wrong house. As soon as I clapped eyes on the little fellow bobbing and puffing on the mats, I had my doubts. He looked more like a grocer than a burglar. Now, okay, I want to take a break for a minute or two just to talk about something that I think is weird but interesting for what Gandalf sees in Bilbo. I'm probably going to write something about this because I feel like there's actually some interesting stuff going on here. Let me just write this down. What does Gandalf see in Bilbo? Because, so this is what I almost imagine it in like a video game. In a video game, when you are on like a quest and you have like something guiding you to that quest, this is almost what I feel like Gandalf is experiencing. Why did he choose Bilbo for this task? Bilbo did not seem like he wanted to be on this task. He didn't seem very capable. All of a sudden, like, how well does Gandalf know Bilbo? At this point, not at all. Unless Gandalf has been scouting Bilbo out for years before this. So it makes me think like Gandalf came by the Hobbit door, and because he was sent by he's a Maya sent by Eru? Sent by the Valar? What was that again? I gotta remember that. I'll really hammer that down in the Silmarillion. It makes me just feel like they're pointing out signs. I think that's one of the answers that you can give where he trusted the bloodline. But there's such a stark difference between these two. And it's interesting because I actually was thinking about that in this. I'm like, okay, so he knows the parents for sure. He likes his mother's eyes. He has his mother's eyes for sure. Little crossover story there. But it makes me think they're comparing him to Bull Roarer in this, where Bull Roarer knocks a guy's head off and the head sails 100 yards down into a little rabbit hole. And then all of a sudden it's saying Bilbo is curled up in a ball recovering from his fit. Those two people are on opposite spectrums. Yes, even though the Hobbit, this is someone of the Took family, the apple has fallen very far from the tree in this moment. The apple might still be a part of the tree, and it might finally return and maybe grow into a tree greater than the original tree. But it makes me feel like Gandalf has like small little indications of what the gods want him to do and how the gods are guiding him in some way. Maybe I'm just reading way too much into that, but it's just interesting for why Gandalf would choose him. Like, Bilbo is sassy, he's funny, I like him, but I don't know if I would want to choose him. Wait, this is literally a next line. Read and find out? Or is that something else, a comment on someone else? Bilbo refusing the call hard, and then in the inciting incident is Gandalf pestering him. Yeah, so I agree with you too, like Jasper. That's like a huge point. And the traits that Gandalf is looking for aren't the typical traits that people would look for. But if they're looking for a burglar, how is Frodo? Or how is Frodo? I can't say Frodo anymore. How is Bilbo a burglar? All hobbits have a well-hidden inner strength, and Gandalf knew this. And he is descended from Tooks. He's bound to rise to the moment. But he's bound to rise to the moment. But this should be maybe not proof. Like Gandalf maybe again believes in second chances here, which is like a cool thing. That's like beautiful. But it's also interesting just because this is like his first test. Even hearing the name makes him freak out. So Gandalf's going, this isn't all that he's made out to be. I think maybe Gandalf's real ability, because he's wearing the ring at this point. Does that help him with anything? Does that help him decipher anything? I don't really know what the Ring of Fire does. I just want Gandalf to have a little banjo and start playing the Ring of Fire. That's a little indication. Yeah, the Ring of Fire inspires courage, inspiration. Candy Cash. That's hilarious. Yeah, the hair on the feet would make him a little more stealth. It's true. Nario is meant to kindle courage. Interesting. I'll learn about that more. Like, I don't know that at the moment. And we shouldn't even know that he has a ring, but publication order, we do know that he has a ring. So it's just interesting to me to like what that ring is actually doing, its purpose, you know? It gives you power over smoke rings, that's for sure. Honestly, that's probably how he's like doing all that stuff with smoke, using the ring of power. It's just a random thought. It's just interesting. I think he's just the comparison with Bull Roar. It's just interesting. Very interesting. I got to think about that and write about that. All right, let me take some water and then we'll keep reading. Yeah, 4-hour lab read today. Honestly, maybe. We only have like 5 pages left. Or really 10, but 5. You know what I mean? We're almost done. Well, kind of. Probably going to be another like 2 hours till we finish, but we'll see. He looks more... I think it sounded more like a fright than excitement. In fact, if it had not been for the sign on the door, I should not have been sure we had come to the wrong... I should have been sure we had come to the wrong house. As soon as I clapped eyes on the little fellow, bobbing and puffing on the map, I had my doubts. He looked more like a grocer than a burglar. Then Mr. Baggin turned the handle and went in. The Took side had won. Interesting. He suddenly felt he would go without bed and breakfast to be thought fierce. As for little fellow bobbing on the mat, it almost made him really fierce. Many a time afterward, the Baggins part regretted what he did now. And he said to himself, Bilbo, you were a fool. You walked right in and put your foot in it. Pardon me, he said, if I have overheard words that you were saying. I don't pretend to understand what you are talking about, or your references to burglars, but I think I am right in believing, this is what he called being on his dignity, that you think I am no good. I will show you. I have no signs on my door. It was painted a week ago, and I am quite sure you have come to the wrong house. Oh, interesting. As soon as I saw your funny faces on the doorstep, I had my doubts. But treat it as the right one. Tell me, what do you want done? I will try it. If I have to walk from here to the east of east and fight the wild wereworms in the last desert. I had a great-great-granduncle once. Bull Roar Took. And yes, but that was long ago, said Glowin. I was talking about you. And I assure you there is a mark on this door. The usual one in the trade. Or Used to be. Burglar wants a good job, plenty of excitement, and reasonable reward. That's usually how it reads. You can say expert treasure hunter instead of burglar if you like. Some of them do. But it's all the same to us. Gandalf told us that there was a man of the sort in these parts looking for a job at once. And that he had arranged for a meeting here this Wednesday, tea time. Of course there is a mark, said Gandalf. I put it there myself for very good reasons. You asked me to find the 14th man for your expedition, and I chose Mr. Baggins. Just let anyone say I chose the wrong man or wrong house, and you can stop at 13 and have all the bad luck you like, or go back to digging coal. Interesting. Wow, Gandalf getting a little sassy. Everyone is much more sassy in this book so far. In an old version, he said the wereworms of China? No way. That's actually crazy. And this is where this book comes from. Ready, everyone? Straight on the table next to me. I'm going to start reading it on a different channel pretty soon if you want to find it and subscribe. Okay. Yeah, everyone's a little more sassy in this book so far. He scowled so angrily at Glowin that the dwarf huddled back in his chair. And when Bilbo tried to open his mouth to ask a question, he turned and frowned at him and stuck out his bushy eyebrows, till Bilbo shut his mouth tight with a snap. This is showing Bilbo's character a lot, these 2 pages. I want to write an essay on this, just like an analysis on Bilbo and the two-sidedness of humans. And good and bad. I can't read that word. Okay, here we go. He scowled so angrily at Glowin that the dwarf huddled back in his chair, and when Bilbo tried to open his mouth to ask a question, he turned and frowned at him and stuck out his bushy eyebrows, till Bilbo shut his mouth tight with a snap. That's right, said Gandalf. Let's have no more argument. I have chosen Mr. Baggins, and that ought to be enough for all of you. If I say he is a burglar he is, or will be when the time comes. There's a lot more in him than you guess, and a deal more than he has any idea of himself. Oh, what a line! There is a lot more. What a good coach. The old John would say, this is where Bilbo became Gollum. The new John is going, well, there's 2 personalities in everyone pretty much. What a good line. It's like yeah, there's a lot more in him than you guess. A deal more than he has any idea of himself. Great coaching. I think this is true of every single human. You don't really realize your potential and like the things that you can do in your life. Sometimes it takes an outsider perspective to really believe in you. I have story upon story of that. This is my educational misfortune. I'll probably make a video about that. I think I've talked about that in another video sometime. A teacher that didn't believe me in 4th grade, and then a teacher that did believe me in college. And the difference between those 2 things is immense. You may possibly all live to thank me yet. Now, Bilbo, my boy, fetch the lamp, and let's have a little light on this. On the table, in the light of a big lamp with a red shade, he spread a piece of parchment rather like a map. This was made by Thror, your grandfather Thorin, he said. in answer to the dwarves' excited questions. It is a plan of the mountain. I don't see that this will help us much, said Thorin disappointedly after a glance. I remember the mountains well enough, and the lands about it. And I know where Mirkwood is, and the withered heath, and where the great dragons breed. Where do the great dragons breed? Excuse me? Thorin? Is Thorin a dragon hunter? Yeah, there's a burglar hiding down in there somewhere. I love that. There is a dragon marked in red on the mountain, said Balin, but it will be easy enough to find him without that, if ever we arrive there. There is one point that you haven't noticed, said the wizard, and that is the secret entrance. You see that rune on the west side, and the hand pointing to it from the other runes? It marks a passage, a hidden passage to the lower halls. Look at the map in the beginning of this book, and you will see there the runes in red. Ah, a little fourth wall break. All right. I'm looking back real quick. Although I don't see the runes in red because this book did not do that. Shame on this book. But there's a little hand pointing at the secret entrance, I'm guessing. East lie the Iron Hills where Dane. Where is Dane? Lonely Mountain. Here of old was Thorin, king under the mountain, the running river. Here was Girion, lord in Dale. I'll look at it later. It may have been secret once, said Thorin, but how do we know that it is a secret any longer? Old Smaug has lived there long enough now to find out anything there is to know about those caves. He may, but he can't have used it for years and years. Why? Because it is too small. 5 feet high, and the door is 3, and the door and 3 may walk abreast, say the runes. But Smaug could not creep into a hole that size, not even when he was a young dragon. Certainly not after devouring so many of the dwarves and the men of Dale. It seems a great big hole to me, squeaked Bilbo, who had no experience of dragons and only of hobbit holes. He was getting excited and interested again, so that he forgot to keep his mouth shut. He loved maps, and in his hall there hung a large one of the country round with all his favorite walks marked on it in red ink. Oh, I want that map. Man, does someone make that map? If someone has any information on where I could buy a map of the Shire with all of Bilbo's walks marked in red, we need to make that. I need to make that and sell that. I would pay so much money for that. Man, I love that. How could such a large door be kept secret from everybody outside? Apart from the dragon, he asked. He was only a little hobbit, you must remember. In lots of ways, said Gandalf, but in what way this one has been hidden we don't know without going to see. From what it says on the map, I should guess there is a closed door which has been made to look exactly like the one on the side of the mountain. That is the usual dwarves' method. I think that is right, isn't it? Quite right, said Thorin. Also, went on Gandalf, I forgot to mention that with the map went a key, a small and curious key. Here it is, he said, and handed to Thorin a key with a long barrel and intricate wards made of silver. Keep it safe. He sets up the mission really quick in this. Indeed I will, said Thorin, and he fastened it upon a fine chain that hung about his neck and under his jacket. Oh, interesting. So Thorin has the key on his neck. Frodo has the ring on his neck. Now things begin to look more hopeful. This news alters them much for the better. So far, we have had no clear idea what to do. We thought of going east as quiet and carefully as we could, as far as the long lake. After that, the trouble would begin. A long time before that, if I know anything about the roads east, interrupted Gandalf. We might go up from there along the river running, went on Thorin, taking no notice. And so to the ruins of Dale, the old town there in the valley, under the shadow of the mountain. But we none of us like the idea of a great front gate. The river runs right out of it through the great cliff at the south of the mountain. And out of it comes the dragon too. Far too often, unless he has changed his habits. That would be no good, said the wizard. Not without a mighty warrior, even a hero. I tried to find one. But warriors are busy fighting one another in distant lands. And in this neighborhood, heroes are scarce, or simply not to be found. Where's Aragorn right now? Hold on, where's Aragorn right now? I need to know where Aragorn is right now. Bilbo is 50? No? Right? Yeah? Aragorn would be too young. Aragorn's too young. Yeah, he's 10. Dang it. I got really excited for a second there. I imagine if Gandalf says, I could find a hero, but he's only 10 years old at the time, and we got to wait a little bit longer for him to become a real hero. Man, that would be so cool. I tried finding one, but warriors are busy fighting one another in distant lands. And in this neighborhood, heroes are scarce, or simply not to be found. Swords in these parts are mostly blunt, and axes are used for trees, and shields as cradles or dish covers, and dragons are comfortably far off, and therefore legendary. That is why I settled on burglary, especially when I remember the existence of a side door. And here is our little Bilbo Baggins, the burglar. And the chosen and selected burglar. So now let's get on and make some plans. Very well then, said Thorin. Supposing the burglar expert gives us some ideas or suggestions. He turned with mock politeness to Bilbo. First, I should like to know a bit more about things, said he, feeling all confused and a bit shaky inside. But so far, still tookishly determined to go on with things. I mean about the gold and the dragons, or in the dragon and all that, and how it got there, and who it belongs to, and so on and further. Bless me, said Thorin. Haven't you got a map? And didn't you hear our songs? And haven't we been talking about this for hours? All the same, I should like it plain and clear, said he, obstinately, putting on his business manner, usually reserved for people who try to borrow money off him, and doing his best to appear wise and prudent and professional and live up to Gandalf's recommendation. Also, I should like to know about risks, out-of-pocket expenses, time required, and remunerations, and so forth. By which he meant, what am I going to get out of it? And what am I going to come back? And am I going to come back alive? Oh, very well, said Thorin. Long ago in my grandfather Thor's time. Ooh, here we go. A little tale. Excellent. Our family was driven out of the far north and came back with all their wealth and their tools to this mountain on the map. It had been discovered by my far ancestor Thrain the Old, but now they mined and tunneled, and they made huger halls and greater workshops. And in addition, I believe they found a good deal of gold and a great many jewels too. Anyway, they grew immensely rich and famous, and my grandfather was king under the mountain again, and treated with great reverence by the mortal men, who lived to see the south and were gradually spreading up the running river as far as the valley overshadowed by the mountain. They built the merry town of Dale there in those days. Kings used to send for our smiths and reward even the least skillful most richly. Fathers would beg us to take their sons as apprentices and pay us handsomely, especially in food supplies, which we never bothered to grow or find for ourselves. Altogether, those were good days for us, and the poorest of us had money to spend and to lend. and leisure to make beautiful things just for the fun of it, not to speak of the most marvelous and magical toys, the like of which is not to be found in the world nowadays. So my grandfather's halls became full of armor and jewels, and carvings and cups, and the toy market of Dale was the wonder of the north. Interesting. That's kind of fun. Undoubtedly, that was what brought the dragon. Dragons steal gold and jewels, from men and elves and dwarves, wherever they can find them. And they guard their plunder as long as they live, which is practically forever unless they are killed. Is that true? That feels like it'd be true, but they probably outlived dwarves. How old is Smaug? Yeah, what's his age? I don't know. And never enjoy a brass ring of it. That's funny. Indeed, they hardly know a good bit of work from a bad, though they usually have a good notion of the current market value. That's hilarious. 200-ish? Interesting. Unknown? You've never heard of a dragon dying of old age? Interesting. Smaug is the youngest dragon and the last. Whoa. Man, the first and the second age are going to be crazy. I can't wait to learn more about them. And they can't make a thing for themselves, not even mend the loose scale of their armor. That feels ominous. There were lots of dragons in the north those days, and gold was probably getting scarce up there, with dwarves flying south or getting killed. And all the general waste and destruction that dragons make going from bad to worse. There was a most especially greedy, strong, and wicked worm called Smaug. One day he flew up into the air and came south. And first we heard of it was a noise like a hurricane coming from the north, and the pine trees on the mountain creaking and cracking in the wind. Some of the dwarves who happened to be outside, I was one luckily, a fine adventurous lad in those days, always wandering about, and it saved my life that day. Well, from a good way off, we saw the dragon settle on our mountain in a spout of flame. Then he came down the slopes, and when he reached the wood, they all went up in fire. By that time, all the bells were ringing in Dale, and the warriors were arming. The dwarves rushed out of their great gate, but there was the dragon waiting for them. None escaped that way. The river rushed up in steam, and a fog fell on Dale. And in the fog, the dragon came on them and destroyed most of the warriors. The usual unhappy story. It was only too common in those days. Then he went back and crept in through the front gate and routed out the halls, and lanes and tunnels, alleys, cellars, mansions, and passages. After that, there were no dwarves left alive inside, and he took all their wealth for himself. Probably that is the dragon's way. He has piled it all up in a great heap far inside and sleeps on it for a bed. Later, he used to crawl out of the great gate and come by night to Dale and carry away people, especially maidens, to eat until Dale was ruined and all the people dead or gone. What goes on there now, I do not know for certain. But I don't suppose anyone lives nearer to the mountain than the far edge of the long lake nowadays. The few of us that were well outside sat and wept in hiding and cursed Smaug. And there we were unexpectedly joined by my father and my grandfather with singed beards. They looked very grim, but they said very little. When I asked how they had got away, they told me to hold my tongue and said that one day in the proper time I should know. What? Did they make a deal with Smaug? Oh, they went through the entrance. They went through the secret exit. Okay. That took me a second. was like, did they just run a deal with? It's got to be they ran through the secret entrance, no? Unless they really did do a deal with Smaug. That'd be crazy. After that, we went away, and we have had to earn our living as best we could, up and down the lands, often enough sinking as low as blacksmith work or even coal mining. We have never forgotten our stolen treasure, and even now, when I will allow we have a good bit laid by, and are not so badly off. Here Thorin stroked the gold chain around his neck. We still mean to get it back, and to bring our curses home to Smaug if we can. To bring our curses home to Smaug. Interesting. The syntax of some of these sentences is interesting. Does that mean that they are bringing their curses back and that they're essentially coming with curses to bring them? Or does that mean that they believe themselves to be cursed and they're coming, and so the curse that's on them is now going to be transferred to Smaug? Just weird syntax, weird usage here. Yeah, I can imagine them just running up to Smaug and going, "Curse you!" Yeah, bringing back the curse that he gave them. I feel like that's probably the right way. Screw you, Smaug. They throw a little rock at him. I have often wondered about my father's and my grandfather's escape. I see now they must have had a private side door, which only they knew about. But apparently they made a map, and I should like to know how Gandalf got a hold of it, and why it did not come down to me, the rightful heir. I did not get a hold of it. I was given it, said the wizard. Your grandfather Thror was killed, you remember, in the mines of Moria by Azog the Goblin. Oh, interesting. Curse his name, yes, said Thorin. And Thrain, your father, went away on the 21st of April, 100 years ago last Thursday, and has never been seen by you since. Interesting. True, said Thorin. Well, your father gave me this to give to you. And if I have chosen my own time and way for handing it over to you, you can hardly blame me. Consider the trouble I had to find you. Your father could not remember his own name when he gave me the paper, and he never told me yours. So on the whole, I think I ought to be praised and thanked. Here it is, said he, handing the map to Thorin. I don't understand, said Thorin. And Bilbo felt he would have liked to say the same. The explanation did not seem to explain. Your grandfather, said the wizard slowly and grimly, gave the map to his son for safety before he went to the mines of Moria. Your father went away to try his luck with the map after your grandfather was killed. And lots of adventures of a most unpleasant sort he had. But he never got near the mountain. How he had got there, I don't know. But I found him a prisoner in the dungeons of the necromancer. What? Crazy. Wow. That's terrifying. That is such like an ominous feel. Oh, that's so terrifying. Whatever were you doing there? Asked Thorin with a shudder, and all the dwarves shivered. Never you mind. I was finding things out, as usual, and a nasty, dangerous business it was. Even I, Gandalf, only just escaped. I tried to save your father, but it was too late. He was witless and wandering, and had forgotten almost everything except the map and the key. That is crazy. That was in the appendices. I don't remember that his father was taken captive by the necromancer in that. But I do know that the necromancer is Sauron. Crazy. Huh. I mean, I'm gonna miss things. I'm gonna forget things too. I don't have a lock and key memory. I wish I did, but you're going to watch me read those facts again, and you're going to watch me get blown away because I don't have the greatest memory. Yeah, that's right. He had the last dwarven ring. That's right. Okay, I remember it because of that, because he got captured by Sauron. Okay, I remember that then. It's still crazy. All right, let's keep reading. We have long ago paid the goblins of Moria, said Thorin. We must give a thought to the necromancer. Don't be absurd. He is an enemy far beyond the powers of all the dwarves put together. If they could all be collected again from the four corners of the world. The one thing your father wished was for his son to read the map and use the key. The dragon and the mountain are more than big enough tasks for you. Hear, hear, said Bilbo, and accidentally said it aloud. This is how you set up a sequel. Like, you talk about the necromancer, and he had this idea that he was going to make for the Lord of the Rings, and he's like, I'm going to put my characters on a journey, but I'm also going to talk briefly about how there's another person out there who is far more dangerous than any of them could talk about or handle. Gandalf's like, I gotta plan with this. You guys are all way too weak for this. But it's going to be his nephew. The dragon and the mountain are more than big enough tasks for you. Hear, hear, said Bilbo, and accidentally said it aloud. Hear what? They all said, turning suddenly toward him. And he was so flustered that he answered, Hear what I have got to say. What's that? They asked. Well, I should say that you ought to go east and have a look round. After all, there is the side door, and dragons must sleep sometimes, I suppose. If you sit on the doorstep long enough, I dare say you will think of something. And well, don't you know? I think we have talked long enough for one night, if you see what I mean. What about bed and an early start and all that? I will give you a good breakfast before you go. Before we go, I suppose you mean, said Thorin. Aren't you the burglar? And isn't sitting on the doorstep your job? Not to speak of getting inside the door. But I agree about bed and breakfast. I like 6 eggs with my ham when starting on a journey. Fried, not poached. And mind you don't break them. Thorin is a grumpy dude. After all the others had ordered their breakfast without so much as a please, which annoyed Bilbo very much, they all got up. This is such a parental thing. Parents reading this to their kids are like, say your please and thank yous. The story has to end because you have to go to bed. All the hobbits are going, or all the dwarves are going to bed. It's a perfect children's beginning. They all got up. The hobbit had to find room for all of them, and filled up all his spare rooms and made beds on chairs and sofas before he got them all stowed and went to his own little bed, very tired and not altogether happy. One thing he did make his mind about was not to bother to get up very early and cook everybody else's wretched breakfast. The tookishness was wearing off, and he was now not quite so sure that he was going on any journey in the morning. As he lay in bed, he could hear Thorin still humming to himself in the best bedroom next to him. Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, to find our long-forgotten gold. Bilbo went to sleep with that in his ears, and it gave him very uncomfortable dreams. It was long after the break of day when he woke up. Oh, what a good beginning to a story. What a good start. Man, what a good book. I didn't sing the songs, unfortunately, but that'll come on our second read. Our second read, I'll sing all the songs. I promise. Although that song is one that I could probably sing, because the movie version of that song is pretty sweet. Oh, what a good beginning for the story right there. I got a lot of things. I have literally 7 things that I wrote down that I could write essays on. I don't know if I'm going to have 7 essays on that. I'll probably have maybe we'll see. Second read is going to be decades away, so yeah, we'll well, not necessarily. Maybe, but not necessarily. I might honestly go back and read it fast. Do all the songs then. Yeah, Thorin's definitely not young. He's a lot older, but still, he's a grumpy dude. Yeah, I'm kind of impressed that we finished that quickly too. That was like a 2-hour read pretty much. 7 stars, 7 stones, and 7 essays. Exactly, you got that right. Man, what a good story. What a good beginning to the story. The children's literature nerd in me is just nerding out about a lot of different parts of that story that I think are very well written to start. The fourth wall breaks, the intrigue for asking your kids questions when you have them. Like, it is a perfect introductory story that gets your kids talking, that brings up fun discussion, even like at a dinner table or something like that. It's great. This dude really knew how to write, guys. I don't know if I've ever said that before, but this guy, he knew how to write. He was a pretty darn good writer. Wow. And it's just kind of like, it just blows my mind a little bit how good he was. Makes me want to read a lot more children's literature too. Yeah, plot similarities to Lord of the Rings for sure. Small little differences in the structure of it, but like he definitely structures his story kind of the same. This was like a combination of An Unexpected Party or The Long Expected Party, and it was a combination of Riddles in the Dark. Or no, not Riddles in the Dark. What's the second chapter of The Fellowship? Don't tell me. Oh, why can I not think of this? This is like one of the best chapters in the book too. I'm not going to look at chat because I want to try to figure this out myself. I'm going to take another 10 seconds to try to figure this out. Oh, what the heck? Shadow of the Past. God, come on. How did I not remember that? It's one of the best chapters ever. There goes my memory. But this chapter felt like a combination of those 2 chapters. It was great. Great chapter. Notice the date it was today, the 27th. No way. Are you for real? I did not even notice that. That is hilarious. That is, wow. I did not plan that. Eru Iluvatar is coming down and giving us divine inspiration for when we need to start our reads. That is crazy. That's so cool. I did not even know that. Wow, I love that. Unexpected party. Very unexpected. What a good intro to a story. I don't even know what else to say. That was just a really great intro. I'm kind of blown away by that. I'm blown away by everything that Tolkien does, but that was just perfect. Yeah, a 1 in 365 chance, and it worked. Eru works in mysterious ways. It is crazy. It's so crazy. My mind is blown. Yeah, discount engineer. My mind is blown. I'm going. Yeah, great story so far. I have lots to talk about, lots to write about. There's like interesting side quests that I have for this. Side quests and side questions. Yeah, that's not going to work in Silmarillion. It's too huge of a work. But the beginning of the story, it just creates a lot of intrigue. Like, even having read Lord of the Rings first, or especially having read Lord of the Rings first, I have like such small little interest in some of the sentences and paragraphs that some of these have. Like, they just feel like they're kind of fitting, and they're kind of like appropriate to the Lord of the Rings and to like the sequel that he's going to write, which is the Lord of the Rings. It's really well done. I feel like I got to think about all these things a little bit more. Like some of the essays are a bit too raw. Like they're more like literary criticism, analysis. And I need to just go through this chapter again. Man, this dude he was a good writer. He knew how to write. Your father went away on the 21st of April, 100 years ago, last Thursday, set on a Wednesday. Dang, crazy. That's so crazy. Question for the child listener. What do you think Bilbo should do? Yeah, exactly. I think I'm curious if all these chapters are going to end a little bit more cliffhangery than some of the stuff in Lord of the Rings. Because some of the stuff in Lord of the Rings, it is cliffhangery, but it's not quite as cliffhangery maybe as this single chapter is. This is like he wakes up and you have the Took and the Baggins warring at him. And then you ask your kid right before they go to bed, what do you think his decision is going to be? We'll read about this tomorrow, but what would you do in this situation? I would go on an adventure, Dad. All right, now you got to go to bed. You got to have an adventure in your dreams. It's great. He does a great job of like including, because there is a way that people there is something that authors do that kind of feels hokey and a little cheesy to me when people do that. But Tolkien does it in a way that just feels good, and it's like not too much, not too little. He does it in a really good way of like just naturally bringing up questions, naturally bringing up a bedtime. It's good. Book 5 only has cliffhangers. That's kind of true, actually. Book 5 was just a book of cliffhangers. Oh, man, that was an experience with that book. I can't wait to reread it. What a good book. All right, guys. I'm going to jump off. It was a pleasure hanging out with you. Reading the first chapter of The Hobbit. Honestly, I don't know if it's going to be quicker than what I thought, but it's a short book. So we'll probably get through this one step at a time with you guys, and then we'll get on to the Silmarillion. But let's not think about the Silmarillion yet. Let's only think about the Hobbit. I only want to obsess about the Hobbit for now. When we get to the Silmarillion, we'll obsess about the Silmarillion. Let's just enjoy the journey. Shorter than the movies, honestly. Yeah, well, that's what I want to do. I want to stop every little line and talk about it with you guys. That's what I love here. Well, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for hanging out with you guys. It was a pleasure. As always, really enjoyed it. I don't think I'm going to do multiple chapters live. Even if they're short chapters, I think I am still going to stick with one chapter lives. That's kind of the feel of this. Even if they're short, probably just stick with one chapter. So that's the plan. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'll see you guys in some videos that I make. And I'll probably make a cooking video maybe sometime later this week about me cooking a seed cake. Maybe I'll make a seed cake and something else. An Earl Grey scone. Because I really want to make an Earl Grey scone. And I'll have a Hobbit feast with myself. And maybe I'll do like a live stream of that and you guys can help me bake. That's the plan. But right now, I'm jumping off and I am going to have some tea because my voice is falling apart. Hobbit to Silmarillion is going to be a massive gear switch. Totally agree with that. But I'm excited for it. Maybe I didn't read them in order. It would probably be good. Hobbit is the easiest. Then you go to the Lord of the Rings, which is hardest, and then the Silmarillion, which is the hardest. Really the hardest. So that would have been nice. But it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun going from the Hobbit to the Silmarillion. Very big gear change, but it'll be fun. All right, guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day. Have a good afternoon wherever you're at. And what's the ending scene for this going to be? I got to find a better one than Galadriel waving goodbye. But for now, we'll do Galadriel waving goodbye. Later, guys.